3, 2, 1.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Real Pineapple. This is your humble host, Hunter, here. Hope you're all having a great start to your week so far. I've got a review here for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is directed by Destin Daniel Cretton. You know him from directing The Glass Castle, which we reviewed here on the channel. I really was not a fan of that movie, but I was a fan of Short Term 12, another movie that Destin did with Brie Larson, and Just Mercy, another movie that he did with Brie Larson, which I absolutely adore. This stars Simu Liu, who of course plays Shang-Chi. You know him from Kim's Convenience, most likely. Awkwafina, of course, plays Katie. You know her from multiple things: The Farewell, Crazy Rich Asians. Awkwafina's Nora from Queens, which I highly recommend. And we'll get into everyone else as we kind of get going. So, the thing about this movie, as we talk about the MCU at large, and as the MCU continues to get bigger, which is kind of hilarious to think that the MCU is still going and we're still getting, you know, these sort of films. I will say myself, if you haven't listened to the review, I highly recommend you do. I was a big fan of Black Widow. I thought it was a really well done film. I was right on that B+, A- range. I ended up giving it an A-, just because I really did like where it ended up. Even though I will say the alternative ending that you can look up, I think the clip actually might be online at this point, but I wish they would have gone with that ending. I really was like, really? Alright, that's a bummer that you didn't use that. But going in Shang-Chi, obviously we have to talk about the significance of having, having another minority character getting the spotlight here. And I will say myself, I've read a little bit of Shang-Chi. There are connections to another character in the potential MCU that we will get to. But the big thing for me, I'm always scared when I watch a movie where it's going to have a person of color, a woman or a minority character in the starring role, because I always want those films to do well, because especially if you're starting to launch a new franchise, I'm always like, please be good. And son of a bitch, let's just get out of the way. This is a great Marvel film. This is better for me than Black Widow is, and I'll kind of talk about where it lands in my overall rankings here in a bit. But just to start the movie off, one thing I do love about this film, and I'm going to try to be somewhat vague because this is something I will want all of y'all to go ahead and try to experience for yourselves as free of spoilers as possible up to a certain point. But the movie starts off with really talking about the Ten Rings, and we are introduced to Wen-Wu, who's played by Tony Chu Wai-leung, who I'm gonna get back to him, but his portrayal as the Mandarin, which is essentially who he's playing here, and of course the dad of Shang-Chi, his portrayal is fucking amazing. And I think the thing for me that I was so pleasantly surprised with, similar to Black Panther, is how at points how Shakespearean this film is. Shang-Chi, he runs from his quote responsibility, what he's supposed to do. And again, that's something when you kind of get to the point in the film, you'll go, oh shit, okay. But he really is running away from what his dad wants and not being what his dad wants him to be, and how, hell, we can all relate to, maybe not going down the path that our parents, want for us, or rebelling. But Shang-Chi has a very good reason to rebel, and that scene in particular, that subplot as far as why there's tension between him and his father, was something I thought was so well done, and again, very Shakespearean. But I can already see one of the big complaints that some people are going to have, and this is just one of those things that I've argued with people about, and at this point, I think we really just kind of need to put it to bed. If you're a comic book purist, the MCU, the DCEU, most comic book films just aren't going to be for you because a lot of stuff in the comic books just doesn't translate. I know myself, I was sitting here going, okay, they're bringing up the 10 rings, like the actual 10 rings, the artifact. I appreciate that. They're not just going to be, a group. And yet they're not really the 10 rings, they're more like the 10 gauntlets. And if there is a complaint, I have very few about the film. I do wish the rings themselves, as far as the powers, because, and I know I've brought up this example before, Iron Man Armored Adventures does a hilariously good job of explaining how the 10 rings work, how the Mandarin works, all of that. And while I think this film does a great job of establishing the Mandarin as a threat and really building upon the lore that we know from the Iron Man films, I do wish the gauntlets, the 10 gauntlets, I do wish those were better defined as far as what their power bases are and everything. But, and I'll get to it later on, I think there's a reason that it's not clearly defined, to be honest, but we'll get there. But Shang-Chi, he's living in San Francisco. He runs away, as I mentioned, from his dad. He starts this new life. His best friend, Katie, played by Awkwafina, who's fucking wonderful. They're really just kind of chilling. They're really just making ends meet. They're both working as like valet drivers. And yeah, they're getting drunk at, 1 a.m. singing karaoke all night. And I really like the way that their friendship is portrayed, because while the film does hint, especially as we get near the end, as far as it potentially being romantic down the road, they really do hold off on it here. And I went, okay, I actually like that the movie just doesn't end. It is very Iron Man-esque in that sense, but I really love the chemistry that Awkwafina and Simu Liu do have here. It really adds a lot more to the film itself, and really makes you care about both characters overall. So I want to get into some stuff that I love. I love the score for this movie. I think the score this is actually one of the best scored MCU films maybe that they've done. I absolutely love Joel P. West's score. I know I mentioned him earlier, but he's worked with Destin Daniel Cretton on at least 3 things that I was able to find: Short Term 12, Glass Castle, Just Mercy. And the music for Just Mercy, the score knows exactly when to, be depressing, when Michael B. Jordan's character is just going through the shit, but then knows how to be uplifting when you feel like you're turning that corner. And when the 10 rings are on screen, there's this very, very somber, almost gothic feel to the music that I found truly just entrancing. I loved the score whenever the 10 rings were on. But then also when we're in San Francisco, it is more, kind of poppy. It's a little more lighthearted. I really like the way that, the score in a positive way does manipulate you and make you like really does enhance everything that you're seeing. The big thing I will say, as far as a compliment, the fight scenes are maybe some of the best the MCU's ever had. And I'm excluding Avengers films because, those are while those action scenes are amazing, there's, this CGI and all that stuff. But as far as pure fighting, this is the best action film Marvel's done outside of Winter Soldier. The hand-to-hand's incredible in here. And I was definitely looking for those spots where is it Simu and where is it not? And the film does a great job of just cutting, so I really couldn't tell. There was maybe one spot that I went, okay, I think that's the stunt person, but my God, the I don't know if you have seen it. I would recommend, if you haven't, go on YouTube and look up his Shang-Chi workout. It's intense, and I love how it really does feel unlike Iron Fist, which I will say this movie makes me hate Iron Fist more. But I love the way that every punch feels not just impactful, but it feels intentional. Like there's some vengeance behind these shots, and even when we don't know a lot about Shang-Chi, you can kind of feel how intensely his father was training him. It has that Joe Jackson vibe to it, because when he does go back home, and they show it in one of the trailers, that post that he was punching continuously as a kid to go ahead and get his hands stronger and all that. When you see him go up to that post and he kind of puts his fist where he'd always be punching, there is just this darkness to his training that you go, all right, so this is child abuse, but you're trying to train a literal warrior. And that's where it brings me to Ming Yang, who plays Zha Ling, who is Shang-Chi's sister. I love her so much. This actress, I mean, so get out of the way. She's absolutely gorgeous. Oh my god. But she has this quiet charisma that kind of reminds me of Ruby Rose in John Wick Chapter 2. She definitely talks more than Ruby Rose, but there are just these points where she just stares at someone and you can feel that she could just fuck that person up so quickly just with a glance. And the way that her and Shang-Chi's paths cross in the film, initially, as far as their reintroduction to each other, I love the fact that this is kind of Sharon Carter vibes, in the sense that, yeah, Shang-Chi did what, let's be clear, he did what was best for him at the moment. And again, when you find out why Shang-Chi leaves, it makes a hell of a lot of sense. And you go, oh, okay, yeah, if someone is trying to get me to do this, I would probably leave too. But, she being she's a younger sister. Yeah, she is younger. Her being a younger sibling, she has this outlook that he abandoned her. And while, again, he was doing what was best for him, he did kind of technically abandon her. So her being pissed off at him and not really wanting to talk to him or really want to be involved with him in any way and being bitter, it makes sense, as sad as it is. And I actually really appreciate the way that their relationship is fleshed out and the multiple different avenues that it goes down as the film progresses. One thing, and another thing I'll say for myself, the humor in this was awesome. The humor worked so well in this, even to a point. I think the film is so well paced, but this film does, to an extent, remind me of Deadpool, in the sense of there is a lot of stuff obviously in present day, but the film does do a really good job of going ahead and flashing back to go ahead and fill in these gaps. So you go, oh, okay, this is kind of why he would do this, or oh, this is what happened with him and his dad here, or him or Shang-Chi and his sister. Okay. There's almost this little mini movie in a movie of his dad, of Wenwu, going ahead and talking about his wife, played by Fala Shin Lee, or by Fala Shin, pardon me, she plays Lee. But their genesis for their relationship and them having kids and them getting married is so fucking sweet. I went, wow, I could watch more of this. We don't need to get to Shang-Chi right now. Like, it's such a sweet moment, or sweet portion of the film. It's only about 10 minutes ish, but what you get there, I went, I really love that this is the foundation of this movie. Because they could have easily opened up with, Shang-Chi, beating the crap out of a bunch of people randomly, but the film is confident enough to go ahead and know that, okay, let's go ahead and actually lay this foundation for why the Mandarin is the Mandarin, because that is something that Iron Man fans are still kind of like, what the hell? And I'll go back to that here in a bit, but I love the fact that the film opens up with this. I absolutely thought that was an absolutely brilliant call. And Speaking of the writing, the two writers for this, because there are a couple. One of them, oh, I don't have their names up here. Oh, thought I had that, but the writers really are confident enough to know that, okay, yes, this is almost more of a Phase One Marvel origin story, but it's paced better, I would say, than even some of the Phase One stuff. Because this could have easily been Thor, and I don't mean that as a bad thing, because I'm a big fan of the first Thor, but I think we can all admit that the second act, to an extent, does lag a little bit as far as him being a civilian and all that. It lags a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit. There's no lag here for me. This was one of these films that this is over 2 hours. I want to say it's like 2 hours, 15 minutes ish. And it really feels like, oh, wow, they really knew exactly how to keep this pace, how to really keep a steady rhythm. Even all the intro stuff at the beginning where you kind of go, all right, we're doing this. Okay. It is all interesting stuff. So when you do get to the later stuff in the film definitely rewards you for paying attention at the beginning. Another thing I will say about the film as well, early on when we find out how Shang-Chi and Katie met, he talks about this fact that he was at, I want to say high school, and this guy goes, or I can't remember if it was high school or college, but this guy yells, what up, Gangnam Style? And he immediately retorts back, I'm not Korean, idiot. And I love the fact that the movie actually addresses, hey, this is something that, that that people of color go through. There is that incredible racial component, even in a place like San Francisco, which we think is, so evolved and so liberal and all that. I love the fact the film calls that out. And it's a very much probably a blink and you'll miss it moment. But there is this moment where Shang-Chi and Katie are walking down the street together. And, you see all these posters, as you would in San Francisco, or these flyers. And there's this flyer that says, are you suffering from post-blip disorder? Call here or visit this website. And I appreciate the fact that the blip is such a giant fucking, catastrophe, with half the world, world's population disappearing. Kind of is. I love the fact that that's still a thread that's being continued on, because, as we slowly start to get more and more people vaccinated, as we start to go ahead and, have the booster shots and all that, I mean, let's be real. I think a lot of us are going to need some sort of counseling coming out of the whole pandemic. I mean, which is not a bad thing. I think we're all due for some counseling anyway. But I love the fact that that's a thread that's still being discussed. As far as another complaint, there is this, and I don't want to give too much away, but you see in the trailer that Wong and Abomination fight, right? You see that in the trailer. The way that kind of ends, I went, okay. I would like some more clarification on why this is the road we're going down. Like, okay. I would have liked some more on that. It felt, again, it's something that they might touch on down the road, but I definitely was sitting there going, yeah, I kind of would like a little more than that, but okay. Also, as far as complaints, the last third of this movie, and again, I know I'm being vague, but I'm really intentionally trying to be vague for a reason. But the last third of this film, the last, big battle, it's very reminiscent of Black Panther. But I'll be the first to admit, this does a better job with the fighting overall. Now, there are some elements in the last battle of Black Panther that I like more. Like, for example, the Shuri fake out, the Dora Milaje, tying up Killmonger. There are those moments, the I did not yield, that, there are those pockets of the third act, last battle that I do love. But overall, start to finish, this does a better job in the third act, last battle than Black Panther does. This has the scope that makes it feel like the world could end if the Mandarins if the Mandarin is able to go ahead and accomplish his goal. And I love that. And the creatures that we end up seeing, some of the creature design on some of these creatures, and again, being vague for a reason, but I love the way that the creatures are designed, the way that they fight. I love the way that the 10 rings are used in the last battle. It feels incredibly epic. Again, while not well defined, I love how epic the actual fight feels, and all the action bits using the 10 rings. It's actually really cleverly done. So I really enjoyed that. But overall, I'm going to kind of start to wrap up here because, okay, so you know what? I'm going to give my grade first, and I'll talk about the mid-credit and the post-credit scenes after that, because that is spoilery, and I don't want to go into that without letting those of you who don't want to hear it go ahead and take the off-ramp. So for me, again, a few complaints, but overall, this is a solid A for me. I can't wait to buy this in 4K and rewatch it again. I might go see it again this week, like on a movie Tuesday or something like that. Like, I really enjoyed this, and I'm so happy for the cast. I didn't mention Michelle Yeoh because her character is very important, and again, kind of want to dance around it, but Michelle Yeoh, she's great in this. And there is this scene with her and Shang-Chi. You'll know it where you see it, where, pardon me, where she kind of goes ahead and teaches him something, kind of has this heart-to-heart with him. And that scene and the way it's shot, and it's so beautiful. And this movie really made me dislike Mulan more, because when you see how the action is staged here, I just go, why couldn't that have been like that Mulan? Why? Like, it shouldn't have been this hard. But regardless, solid A. Solid A. Highly recommend you go see this. Congratulations, by the way, to Shang-Chi for being number 1 at the box office for its second week in a row. But hell yeah, this was an absolute blast. Should go and see it. So, okay. Now I'm going to get into the mid-credits and the post-credit thing, and I'm kind of where I think this could potentially be going. So, I mentioned earlier that the 10 rings are not well-defined. They don't even say where they come from. They just talk about, basically, they're kind of like a ancient energy, I think is the term they use. So, I think that's being done by intentionally, because if you notice in the trailers, when Shang-Chi is using the rings, they're gold. The color when he's using the rings. I personally think that maybe the 10 rings were created by the Eternals. And the only reason I bring that up is because if you notice, Kamal Nanjiani, like his power base when he's shooting kind of the shooting the energy out of his fingers, that energy is gold. When you see Angelina Jolie using kind of that like light sword, that's gold. When you see Richard. When you see pretty much everyone in the trailer using their powers, gold is a color that's associated with them. So I'm wondering if maybe these were created by Eternals, thousands of years ago, discovered, and then this is where, the rings come from. My other guess would be that it could very easily be something created by one of the variants of King the Conqueror. It makes a lot of sense considering he is a scientist, and perhaps a scientist of another variant version of him saw some evil, recognized the potential threat, left the ring somewhere. Very easily could be Kang. So I think they're leaving that thread very intentionally to go ahead and tie that into something later on and go, oh, 10 rings, bye-bye. So if it's either one of those, you heard it here first. But that's what I'm leaning towards. And then the mid-credit scene. So Katie, to my knowledge, does not have a character, is not based on a character in the comics. They could easily do, pull an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and we find out, Katie's nickname for, something else. It's an alias. We could easily find that out down the road. But what I love about this movie, and I love about the mid-credits, is that Wong really does a great job. Benedict Wong, of course, playing Wong here. The movie really does a great job of hammering home the notion that your lives are changing from this moment forward. Like, you can't go backwards. Like, you're superheroes now. You have to understand that things aren't going to get easier. And I actually love that humbling reality. I love that Katie and Shang-Chi get to talk with Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner. And, oh God, was Okoye there? Am I imagining Okoye? I don't think she was there. But it feels like, and this is me kind of Hail Marying a little bit or swinging for the fences, it feels like they're kind of setting up their own version of the Illuminati, which, if you know, is a thing in the Marvel comics as well. Some of the most, revered minds in the MCU. That could be a road they're going down. It feels like Wong could easily be a member of the Illuminati, as far as, one of those well-revered, well-respected intellectuals. But there's that. The second mid-credit scene, the post-credit scene, that's the one I'm like, oh shit, okay, because we see Shang-Chi's sister, Xialing. We see her supposedly shutting down the 10 Rings, and she's not shutting it down at all. She's taking it over. She's the new head of the 10 Rings. And so I hope, and I mean this, I hope that somehow the 10 Rings are involved in the next Captain America, because could you imagine Sharon Carter and Xialing working together? Like, Sharon Carter giving her information to empower the 10 Rings. I would love that. And to, pardon me, and to see Anthony Mackie take on the 10 Rings as Captain America. Sign me up for that shit. Let's go. So I'm very intrigued on where they're going with this. And then the last thing I will throw out, the country, or the place that they are in at the end of the film. It's called Ta Lo. It ties in just enough, and even if you, kind of a blink and you miss it moment, there's this moment where Shang-Chi is training, and the attire he's wearing, it's yellow and like a dark forest green. Very similar to the outfit of Mr. Danny Rand. There's even a dragon, and they mention like the heart of the dragon, which is how, keep in mind, not Finn Jones, he's the guy who played Iron Fist, how Danny Rand gets the power of the immortal Iron Fist. The other key thing is, though, Okoye in the comics right now is one of the what's known as an immortal warrior. He has the power of the Iron Fist right now. There's easily a world where you give Okoye superpowers proper, considering we don't have a Black Panther right now. They could easily do that. So I'm very intrigued if that's going to be what sets up Danny Rand, because I feel like Shang-Chi does that very intentionally. But I will probably talk about that more during a watch along of Shang-Chi once it comes out on 4K and Blu-ray. But absolutely love this movie. Solid A again. Everyone, have you seen Shang-Chi? If you have, what did you think about it? Let us know in the comments. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. You can follow Scott on Twitter at Nearman1st. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can find us on SoundCloud, Apple and Google Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher and iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, and TuneUp, to name a few spots at The Real Pineapple. And don't forget to like us on Facebook at The Real Pineapple. And you can go ahead and like our gaming page, Real Pineapple Games. Go ahead and be following that so you know when I'm going to hop on Twitch, which is going to be next month for Halloween. Not on Halloween. Maybe on Halloween. But I'm going to go ahead and be streaming Resident Evil 4, which I am horribly excited to go ahead and get into because I have not beaten that before. But everyone, thank you so much for listening. We will have reviews up soon for Free Guy as well as for Ride the Eagle. I am unfortunately getting my wisdom teeth taken out this week, so probably won't be any reviews this weekend. But I will make sure I've got something uploaded for y'all that I'll probably pre-record. But everyone, thank you so much for listening. Take care of each other. Wear a mask. Get your COVID shot if you've not gotten it, for Pete's sake. Stay safe out there, and we will talk to you soon.